right? So we're diving into Le Bus version Hybride today.
Sounds like a fun ride.
Yeah, poetry, I think more than almost any other form, it really I don't know, it gets you right to the heart of things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's so potent, and just a few words can carry so much weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before we, really start to analyze, I think it's important to hear it first, just let it wash over you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it nice and slow so we can all really kind of absorb the sound and the rhythm,
Okay, here we go. Je n'avais point envie d'entendre.
Okay.
Ce sourire rentre le silence. Bien que de ça s'exhabilla par mes pleurs, j'eusse pu en faire tout un chœur.
Wow.
Je me contentais de l'imaginer et de sourire en moi tel un ivre.
Okay.
Comme auparavant l'ayant regardée, je ne pus m'empêcher de vivre.
Okay.
Ce qu'elle était,
Right.
pire ce qu'elle représentait, était bien mieux que tous mes vins de myrrhe.
J'aurais aimé la respirer de désir.
Wow.
Mais un abîme nous traversait.
Okay.
Tracer une route et recomposer chaque geste égaré. Chaque sentiment désiré vite maîtrisé. Il me plaisait de l'écouter, j'aimais l'embarrasser. Cruel vide, qui sitôt nous séparait. Mais avant longtemps, le temps cher nous aura bientôt retrouvés. So, the speaker in this poem, they're wrestling with a lot, aren't they? From the very beginning, je n'avais point envie d'entendre. I had no desire to hear. What is it about that smile, breaking the silence? What is he resisting?
I think there's this, we've all felt this, right? This tension, when you're going through something difficult, maybe you're sad or you're grieving or, just feeling down, and you're surrounded by people who are, outwardly expressing joy and happiness. It's almost like their happiness is a burden.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because, he doesn't say, I had no desire to hear because, he doesn't give us a reason.
Right.
And so you almost have to fill in the blanks for yourself.
Yeah.
So in a way, this poem is almost asking us, have you ever felt this?
Absolutely.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
One of the lines that really struck me was, et de sourire en moi tel un ivre, and to smile within myself like a drunkard.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on there?
It's almost like, we talk about drowning your sorrows, that idea that maybe alcohol can be an escape.
Right.
But here, he's finding refuge not in alcohol, but in his own imagination. It's like a self-induced state of intoxication. He's smiling, but it's all internal. He's not letting it out. And that word drunkard, it suggests a kind of loss of control, almost like he's overwhelmed by these internal emotions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that internal world, that feeling of being kind of closed off, it's almost heightened by the imagery later in the poem where he talks about this abyss that's separating him from she, right? But it's a strange kind of abyss because it also seems to be like a road. He says it traçait une route et recomposait chaque geste égaré. Traced a road and recomposed each lost gesture. So how can an abyss be a road? What do you think is going on there?
That's a great question. And it's, you think about a bus, right? The two people on the bus, it's like a world unto itself,
Right.
They're in this enclosed space, they're traveling together, but they're still separated by, the aisle or just the fact that, they're strangers.
Right.
So maybe that's part of what the abyss is. It's like a physical separation that's also a metaphorical separation. And I think that sense of distance allows him to kind of create his own image of her. He's observing her, and each gesture, each detail is adding to his picture of her, but it's still just a picture, It's not the real her.
And it's interesting too because a little bit earlier in the poem he says était bien mieux que tous mes vins de myrrhe, was far better than all my wines of mire. What do you think those wines of mire represent?
Mire, it's like mud, it's like you're stuck.
Yeah.
It's heavy, it's dark. So maybe it's a metaphor for his internal state, you know? He's bogged down by something. He's carrying this weight. And she, with her smile and her joy and everything she represents, she's like this, this breath of fresh air. She's like the opposite of Meyer.
Right. And so he's almost like, struggling with his darkness, with his mire, and he's drawn to her light, but there's this distance between them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then he says this line that I find really, really intriguing. He says, Et il me plaisait de l'écouter, j'aimais l'embarrasser. And it pleased me to listen to her, I like to embarrass her. What do you make of that? Because to me, it sounds kind of like a little bit manipulative.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit unsettling, and it makes you wonder, like, what's the nature of their relationship? Is it playful? Is it, like you said, manipulative? Is there something else going on there? The poem doesn't really give us any answers.
Right.
But I think it's meant to, like, make us uncomfortable. It's meant to make us question, how we relate to each other, how we exert power, even in subtle ways.
Yeah, and then we get to that ending, which I find so ambiguous. He talks about this cruel void that separates them, but then there's also this hope of being reunited by time and flesh. Is he resigned? Is he hopeful? What do you think?
I think it's both. It's like he recognizes that they're apart and there's this emptiness, this void, but he also has this sense that maybe someday, circumstances will change, they'll be brought back together, and it makes you wonder, like, what does it mean to be reunited by time and flesh? What kind of reunion is he imagining?
Mm.
And for me, it brings up, like, the whole idea of memory and how we hold on to those we've loved and lost, or those we're separated from. Like, even though they're not physically present, they're still with us in some way in our memories and our imaginations.
Right, right. So much to unpack in this one short poem. It's amazing how much it evokes, and it gets to the heart of, like you said, longing and desire and the passage of time and all those really fundamental human experiences.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I would love for our listeners to think about is, like, how would the poem change? How would your interpretation change if she was a he? Like, how much of our understanding is shaped by our own assumptions about gender and relationships?
That's a great question to leave everyone with. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Le Bus version Hybride. We encourage you to go back and read it again, maybe even several times. Let it really sink in. I think every time you read it, you'll find something new.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Until next time.
Take care.
Bye.